Let's get into it and talk about what the big question is, because I think for foreigners coming to Germany, I mean, this topic is something that applies not just to foreigners in Germany, but obviously we're going to talk about it because we're both in Germany, and that's the angle that we're going to have here. But people come to Germany, foreigners come to Germany, and it's a case of finding a job, sometimes finding a job in order to stay here in Germany, but there's a lot more to it, and it's important to find something that suits you, that you're passionate about, like you said. So the question that we're asking today is, how do I decide, first of all, what the job is that I want? So maybe you can describe to me how you guide people in this big question.
Yeah, it is a really big question, and
it's broad.
That's when I'm working with foreigners who are looking for a job in Germany, then this is actually the part that I'm most interested about, or most interested in, because there are so many different backgrounds, and we are all individuals, and every career path is so unique.
Yeah.
And at some point, people forget this step of really evaluating what they want from their life, from their job, and that a career can actually be fulfilling to you.
Yeah.
And this
would you say that a lot of people that you deal with have thought of that, or do you think that it's not on their mind?
It kind of depends on how far along they are in their journey. And with that, I mean, have they just started out, are they looking for the first job in their career, or have they already had a little bit of work experience or several years of work experience? So right. People that have had several years of work experience, they are aware of that fact, but they are actually afraid of diving into that topic because they think that they don't find anything that matches their passion. And that is the most interesting part, to see that there is something out there that matches your passion.
Right.
And with people that are younger or that have not so much work experience, for them most important is just finding a job. And then they are not so much looking into the work conditions and the requirements that there are. They don't actually know what they are looking for and what they need to be aware of. Mm-hmm. With regards to the work contract, or with regards to the atmosphere at work. And that's when I also can just recommend to anyone, just go for it and try it. And then what you like, you try to keep what you like. And then from there, you can go a step further. And everything that you don't like, just make a list of the things that you don't like. And then you look into another future employer, and if this person or if this new potential employer fits your values, basically, then you're good to go. But if there are certain, signals or red flags that you've already experienced in one of your previous jobs, then you simply just don't go for that job anymore, because you've experienced that before.
Yeah. Okay, so that's very interesting, and I'm sorry I interrupted you with that question because you were already on a line of thought. So I think it was that like, how do you guide people in that direction when they're coming to you? How do you get them to think about this?
Yes. So well, there is this big topic of finding what you value and what your values are, and this seems like a huge mountain to some people because they don't really know how to tackle this topic. And what I then do, or what I asked for the first question, is something like, what is most important to you right now? And then they need to find out, okay, is it my family? Is it being in Germany? Is it a lot of money? Is it a lot of holidays? Is it working remotely or not? And these are the things that they have to find out from their status quo, so what the current position they are in right now. And then from there, I go back a couple of steps. So I then go back in their journey with them to ask them, okay, with regards to your previous employer, look at the company's values, because obviously each company has normally a website and they have their vision and their mission. And these are great aspects that you can look out for and try to find a match with the company. So you look for their vision and their mission and find out, are these values actually something that I live for, or is that something that I cannot relate? Do these values fit my values? And then something that is also very important nowadays, and it's quite a big topic, is whether you like the structure of the company. So do you like a hierarchical structure or a flat structure? And with that, it is really interesting from one of your previous episodes that I've heard when you were talking about startups and or conservative companies, because conservative companies normally have this hierarchical structure, and with startups, it's quite flat and you have a lot of movement. And this is something that you need to find out. Do I want to work with a conservative company or not? Do I want to have a position where I have a lot of responsibility or not? So there are certain questions that I ask with regards to the values. And first, it's basically the work environment. And for example, do you like being friends with your colleagues outside of work or not? And do you like it if the company or the atmosphere is competitive or collaborative? Because everybody of us is unique and everybody has a different view on these values, and this is something that you need to find out. So basically what I say, you take a sheet of paper and tick these questions. You just say, I like this or that, this or that.
Okay.
And then something else that you need to consider is your ideal work life. So how does a typical work day look like to you now, and what would you like it to look like? And so now also with this certain situation that we're in, obviously our work day has changed completely. And so, and here it is especially important to think about your work-life balance, to think about, okay, how much time do I spend for my work and how much time do I spend in my private life? And then also something like, when I'm working from home, how can I actually support the idea of really having a cut from work and life? And this is something that I have realized as well, because I'm so passionate about my job and about my business that in the very beginning, I never did any breaks. I was just working, and on the weekends as well. And then I thought, you can never get a burnout if you're really passionate about something. Yes, it's right, but you still need to take breaks.
It's such a good point that you make. I think the way things are currently has really changed the questions that people have to ask themselves. And I have found it exactly what you're saying, is that here I'm lucky enough to have my Arbeitszimmer in the basement of our house. So there is like a physical gap between where I'm working, like when I'm online, and then when I go upstairs to the family and my private time. But the problem is, before coronavirus and everything, I would have a buffer when I drive home or commute home from work between the workplace and my personal time. So there was like any thoughts, I would have gone through them on the drive home, or I would have thought of something, I need to do that tomorrow and sort it out. And or if you've had a frustrating day, those frustrations are often gone by the time you've commuted home. And but now you don't have that. I don't have that commute. And this was a big adjustment I had to make recently, because I couldn't just go from here to up to our ground floor where the family is, because I still had all these things in my mind. So I've built in some buffer. So I go for a walk, or I try as much as possible to just maybe stop working and do something private before I go upstairs, just to have that sort of gap between things. So that's interesting, that usually you have a set of questions that people have to ask themselves, like, what do they like? But now there's a whole new set of questions that also would come into it.
That's true. That's true. Because obviously the companies are restructuring their way of
Yes.
work as well. So now actually the employees have a lot of power to restructure this new way of working with them if the company is open to that, obviously. And it's a really difficult situation because most of the employees don't even know what is best. Because for you, it's great that you found out, okay, I need to go for a walk, but this is a process. At some point, you just realize that you are stressed and that you cannot like shut off your thoughts. And this is a point when you need to just think about, okay, stop right here, and then maybe go for a walk or a cup of coffee or cup of tea or just anything that helps you shift from work life to your private life.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, and I can tell you that what you're saying is also very valid, because the experience that I've got that I'm having with my current company is they've been incredible. The moment that coronavirus came, they said, you go home. Even before it was legal that we had to go into a lockdown, they said, stay home, be safe. We'll work it out. We'll work out the details. And back then the infrastructure wasn't really in place for us to work from home, but they just said, do it. And, they've now since changed their whole working model to say, okay, you can choose now, even after the pandemic is over, you can stay home office forever, or you can do a sort of a flexi thing where you're sometimes in the office, sometimes at home. So they've really shown that they are flexible in that way and that they adapt with the times. And that's also something that you should look for or think about. Like, do you want a company that takes care of you? Because other companies, I know other people who are still going into the office, and they're like, it's obligatory that they're in the office for some people. So it's a very valid question. What do you want from a company? Do you want a compassionate company, or is that not so important to you? Because maybe you don't care. Maybe if you need to go in the office, you have to. And so it's all about what you want and need, basically.
Yeah, absolutely, I totally agree. And for that, this step of finding out what you really want is so important, because if you don't know what you want, how is the company supposed to know what you want? And this is also at some point in your career, you are very you are mature and you kind of know what you want, but we don't get the chance, not in our school life, normally not on our university life, and not during our career, to really find out what it is that we really want from our life, what we are passionate about. And sometimes, so a very good indicator for that is basically the actions or the things, the tasks that you're doing when you are losing time, and when you don't think about, I'm still at work, time is not flying by. The opposite is the case. So when you think, oh no, the day is over already, that's when you know you're doing something that you really enjoy doing. And this is what you need to look out for. And there's actually a very great TED Talk, which is not so long, by Simon Sinek about its why. It's called Why. So anybody can look up this video, and this is for you to find out whether there is a purpose for you here, and whether you know that you are doing your job for a greater good. Because some people are always thinking, okay, I want to add some value to the company, I want to add some value to my community where I'm living, or I want to add some value to the country where I'm living in. And these are the things that we need to consider when finding out what our values actually are. And then sometimes also people tell me that they don't even know, I don't know what a value actually is. It sounds like a huge, weird concept. And this is very, very typical. And normally what is very helpful to do is just taking a white sheet of paper, and just write down anything that you like. And it doesn't really matter whether it's really a value, or whether it's a noun or a verb or a task, or just anything that you're doing in your work life or in your private life. But from there, we can then go forward and find out what the values are. Something like, freedom or felicity or joy at work or something like that.
Yeah.
And but there are smaller steps that you can take, like finding out, do I like working flexible hours or not? Do I like home office or not? And then also something that people need to think about is whether growth is something that is important to them or not. So do they really want to progress in their career, or do they want to stay in the position that they have applied for? And because not everybody has to progress in their career. That's totally fine and up to yourself again.
Yes.
And also something that you need to consider is whether you like to make decisions or not, because sometimes people are forced into positions where they have to make decisions and it's totally not to their liking.
Yeah, it's so refreshing to hear you say that, because I think a lot of the people, especially in Germany, I think Germany has this culture of sort of and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's sort of a progression through your career that at some point you get to the position where you're going to be taking on more decisions and things like that. But some people are not good at that. Some people are not necessarily good at weighing up all the options and having a clear mind as to which way they go. But if they've got a directive in front of them, where the decision's made and it's do this, they feel much more comfortable following that. And sometimes I think there's sort of a negative view of these people, that they're just following orders, but it's not. To me, it's not that as well. It's a completely valid path for you to not want to or not be able to make those decisions, but to be able to execute on whatever is decided. And I think that is I like that. That is something that you consider, that you make them think about, because I think it's also a valid thing. Yeah.
And it's also very helpful for them to know that people that want to stay in their position are actually great for the company as well, because that means they don't have to invest money into their new recruiting if they are progressing to another position, and they can rely on these people because they know, okay, you are in your position, you're doing something that you love. And again, like in any relationship, communication is key here again, because, and that's also something that I always tell, and that I'm convinced of, a concept that we are people and we are developing. And with a relationship, it's the same like you and your company. And there is one way, and you are developing in the same direction, or you're developing in different directions.
Yes.
And that's a point when you just need to communicate and talk to them, because it doesn't really, just because you're unhappy in your job doesn't mean that you have to quit your job right away. Yes. Maybe you can talk to your employer and find a way that makes it much more comfortable to you to be there. And your employer just simply has never thought about that because you've never told them that you don't like how you work. Yeah.
Very interesting.
And, so then also something that you need to consider is the way how performance is measured. And this is linked to what you just said, that in Germany, and I can totally agree, that we have this negative connotation with people that don't want to progress. It's just, we always want to push harder, further, wider, and up the ladder. And it's just not for everybody. And this is also the way of how people are being measured in companies as well. So you normally have this performance talk once a year, but then also something that I have done in during my career in HR was basically some sort of performance talk, but more like, how can I help you that you can reach your goals? So how can I help you to find a training that makes life and work easier for you? Right. And this is something that also my clients that I'm working nowadays with, I tell them, you need to find out, do you really like that if you are measured like a machine, or whether you just simply want to be seen as a human being in your company as well. And then there are other compensations that can turn out. So it's not always just having more money if you're changing your position, for example, but something that we Germans actually lack is that we don't appreciate enough. So we don't say, you've done a great job and we are glad that you were here. Germans just simply don't like doing that.
No, it's so funny that you say that, because my first company that I worked in, I think that was the biggest problem, because in South Africa, I was always expecting people, managers and colleagues to always say, that was great what you did on that thing, and you did really good there. You're and you just make you feel valuable by the things that they say. But here in Germany, it's just accepted. That is your job, and you do it, and you can do a great job. But you're not. They're not horrible to you, but they're not congratulating you or saying well done, which is now fine. Now after 13 years in Germany, I understand it. But in the beginning, it made me feel like I wasn't doing a great job. I felt like people were just, because I wasn't getting that constant feedback, I was just like, I'm doing a terrible job. They hate me here. So it's also a cultural thing, I think. Yeah, and it's also, as you say, a valid thing to think about. Like, what do you need? Are you someone that needs praise or encouragement, or even just signs that you're going in the right direction, or do you want to be left alone and not have people say anything to you?
Yes, exactly. So and that's always something that I also try to tell the people that I'm working with, that first of all, we Germans are really weird when it comes to saying that you've done a great job, and that this is something that they need to communicate as well, because sometimes German employers, if they have never worked with foreigners before, they are not aware of that fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So their communication is key again. So, and now something maybe that is very helpful also for the people that are listening to us, if all of this sounds like a huge mountain and I don't know how to find out what I really want from my job, is a concept that I found out just a couple of weeks ago that is called mind movies. And the mind movie is basically kind of like a vision board 4.0. So you can make a vision board of the things that you want to have, but you can also make a video out of that. So you can do that with all of these different websites and movies that are out there. So basically you find out things that you like, and these can be images, and then also movies that you can relate with, and also music that makes you happy. And then you have a certain feeling from that, and you envision what your future position looks like. And it helps you. It helps your subconscious to find out what you really want. And this is something, if you're doing this exercise more often, so you're looking at the videos that you enjoy, and this can be videos like company videos, because obviously there are image videos of companies everywhere. And I remember the first time when I saw the first job that I had with an internship that I've done with a huge automotive company here in Germany. They had this company movie, and I was so moved. I wanted to be part of that. I had goosebumps. I had tears in my eyes when I was watching this movie. I so desperately wanted to be part of this company. And this is something that you need to look out for. If you find a movie like that sparks your joy like that, then you're definitely looking in the right direction.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with the company that I'm working for now. I found them, I was going to apply for them, and then I was looking on their website and I saw one of these videos. And it was one of these, it wasn't meant to be moving, but one of the people that they interviewed in the movie, in this little film, she was talking what it means to work at this company, and she started crying while she was doing the interview. And I thought, wow, if she is so, like, it was genuine, authentic, and I could see she truly is. This is not an act. She truly is that emotional about it. Then I can get behind this company. It really gave me that extra spark to apply for it. And then I went through the whole applications process, and I got the job, and I was looking forward to meeting her, and it turned out she'd left the company. So I guess she wasn't that emotional.
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
but this is something that you need to look out
Yes.
for, because then
Yes.
it can spark joy inside of you. And
Yeah.
also, what is very, very difficult for people nowadays to find a job, because sometimes you can get inspiration, right? When you're looking at job boards or platforms where they are like on LinkedIn or any kind of Monster.de or Indeed, any sort where you're looking for jobs, they try to get just any kind of hint to find a job that they really want to do. The problem nowadays is, and I don't know whether this is the same in the English speaking world, but in Germany it is really, really topical, that the job titles are changing. So there are new job titles popping up every week. So, and maybe you've heard of that, like an office happiness manager or something like that. So
or a
these
software developer ninja or something like this.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So jobs like that, and you don't even know what this job is about. So what I then say to my clients is normally just go on the job boards and look for those jobs and really take a look at the tasks. And are these tasks interesting to you? It's not so much about the job title, but it's about the tasks, whether they are interesting to you or not. And this is then from there you can take the next step. So a task that is interesting to you, you type it into the platform and search for a new job again. And then, basically the algorithm will find more jobs for you because you found out this one task that you are interested in.
Forget about the job title, because I've also seen the word manager in job titles can mean very, very different things based on the company. One company might post I just saw it the other day that said something about something manager of, I think it was online content manager or something, or press media, something like that. And then when I looked at what the tasks were, they were really high up in the company, like reporting to executives, and they were the high manager. The other companies use manager as sort of mid-level management. They're going to have a team, and other companies still just throw manager in the thing, in that you manage those tasks. You don't manage any people. So that's great advice. Just ignore look more or less for the right keywords, but just ignore what the actual title is and look at the tasks. I think that's great advice.
Yeah. That's true. And it's also something like a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, unfortunately, my dad lost his job, and he is a sales manager. And but in German, it's called Verkäufer oder Verkaufsleiter.
Right.
So, and he was looking for Verkaufsleiter positions, and he couldn't find any. It was just all about sales. And he just, I don't know, I don't want an English job. I don't know how to speak English. And that was quite difficult then for him, because he was applying for jobs that were just, as you said, like below his level, because he would never look for head of something positions, for example. And then, but he found a job, and now he's very happy. So that's great.
Great. That's a good story. Good ending
with
to
this
that story.
job title, it's really difficult at some point.
Yeah.
And then also one more advice that I would like to give with regards to finding out what you really want from your job is a wonderful book that I have read, and it's by John Strelecki, and it's called The Big Five for Life. And I don't know whether people have read that yet or not, but it's basically about finding the 5 aspects of your life that are most important to you. And then you are basically defining these 5 areas and find out what it is that makes you happy in the long run. So, this is actually a book also that I read just before I started my own business.
Wow. Well, so be careful if you read it, people. It might change your life. I'll put the link to the book in the show notes as well. To come back to this values question and figuring out what you want, like you said earlier, some people have a clearer idea of their values. Maybe they've matured in their career. Some people are just from a young age, they have a clear identity or a clear knowledge of what they are. And then other people still figuring it out. Takes different amount of time to figure it out. But on top of that, in Germany, you've got foreigners that are getting here, and they're just wanting to get a foot in the door, and maybe the values question is lower? I don't know, but maybe it still plays a role. Maybe, and this is my question to you: is like, maybe it's a case of is your value that you need something that's going to start you in a specific direction? What advice do you give to completely new foreigners here who maybe don't see the luxury of looking at their values and finding, they just want to find something?
Yeah, so normally it's they have already a very clear view of what kind of job they want to do. Right. I have to say, because they either they have studied that or they have worked in this field for a very long time, and then at some point when I'm working with them, I find out that they are just doing that for earning a lot of money. They are coming to Germany because they want to earn more money. And then also something, I think you've had that in one of your previous episodes as well, that it was about people underestimating the amount of taxes that we're paying and all of the contributions that we're paying. Yes. And then actually the amount that you get at the end on your bank account looks less than from the country where you're coming from at some point, maybe. So this is something that I tell them as well. So if you're coming to Germany and at the end in your bank account you have a little bit less, is it still the job that you want to do or not? Yeah. And then they start thinking about, well, I don't know whether this is actually what I want to do or not. And something that is also very interesting or helpful if you're changing from your home country to another country is that you have the freedom of inventing yourself again. So you can actually, and you have done the same. So it's basically the freedom of finding out, okay, so I have some work experience, but I actually would like to dive into a new area. And that's what I can always recommend anybody. If you are just finding out what you really want and you just have this idea, if you get the opportunity, go for it and find out, try it. And then you will find out on the job whether you like it or not, which is why this probationary period is so great, because in the first 3 months you can find out, is the company the right fit for me? Is the job the right fit for me? And then you still have this flexibility of saying, well, this is actually not what I want to do. So I'm looking for something else. And that is also something that I always tell everybody. The job application journey or the job hunting journey only ends if you are sitting on a spot when you are really satisfied with your job. And if you're not happy with your job, keep applying. Just keep applying for jobs and find out what it is that you really want to do.
Yeah, and I think that is very valid. So especially for people in their first jobs in Germany, it may be a necessary stepping stone, but if you're not happy, it doesn't mean you're stuck in that job or that you can't be thinking about it and developing yourself in a different way. If you want to go into different ways, you've got the foot in the door, you got a job, but you can be developing yourself in specific directions. And it all comes back down to your values. Like if you know what you're looking for and what you're hoping for, then you just go. But these things change all the time, don't they? Like values or things that you want. If I think back to me when I first got to Germany and the things that I wanted from my career and what I was expecting, is very different from what I'm feeling now about my career. So that's also something, I guess, I don't know if you tell your people this, but I guess reevaluating all the time and constantly doing some self-evaluation and saying, do I still want these things, or why am I suddenly not happy with this?
Yes. And am I on the path that feels comfortable to me or not? And this is, again, this development that we're going through. So the company is developing and we are developing, and does this still fit or not? So I have to, it also depends on your life and the circumstances that you're in. So moving to a new country is a completely new environment that you're in. And this can be very overwhelming. And that's why finding your values for your job is something that you might not want to consider right away. It's just something that you need to, at some point you need to take a step back and then evaluate, am I still happy here, or why do I feel stressed? And then Also, a different circumstances if you are starting a family, for example, because then the circumstances change, your time changes, and your feeling for time changes as well.
Yeah.
And these are the major differences that are happening on our journey. So these are the steps when you need to consider and reevaluate whether the job is still the right fit for you or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, it's a great point. And what I like about what you're doing, because you offer services for foreigners in Germany as well, and you obviously help them with their career, but you also taking a step back, like you said, looking at past jobs that they had and also current jobs, and helping them figure out what they want and not just find a job in their field. So I think that's also a very valuable thing to be doing, is to help with that mindset of what I'm looking for. And I fully agree that moving to another country is a chance to reinvent yourself, because like you said, that was something that I did. I was stuck in a career that I was definitely not happy in. It was draining my soul. And I said, well, if I'm moving to Germany, this is my chance. I have to give up my job anyway, which is what was keeping me in the job previously. But to come to Germany, I had to give that up. So I was basically freed from it, and I could search for something along the lines of what I thought I would be good at and what I wanted to do. And it was truly a reinvention of my professional self when I got to Germany and went down my new career path. And it's led to me to a job where I'm extremely fulfilled. So never underestimate. Don't just go looking for the same things that you had before. Never underestimate how the value of reinvention when you move to a new country.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's great advice. And it's also something, if you're really stuck and you don't really know where to go, you can also ask the people around you what they think that you are good at and what they think that you could do. Yeah, because sometimes we are just so focused on, and we have this straightforward career path and don't see that we have so much to offer that can be used in any other job maybe as well, and that we just simply don't know about yet. So that can help, talking to your friends, talking to your family, talking to colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. So one follow-on question to this whole thing is, once you've figured out your values in Germany, how do you find that job that matches that? So we mentioned, for example, the job titles, and you don't necessarily need to pay attention to that, but what kind of, how do you find that specific job that's matching to your values?
So you basically find out, so from the questions that what you want and what you don't want, you basically find out the core of what you think is a great job. And then it's kind of like an experiment of going from either jobs that you've already had, or jobs that you're interested in, or jobs that you've heard of from somebody else, you're reading about on the news, or you're hearing about those jobs, or you just have anything that you're interested in. If that matches your values, go for it. So, and that can simply sometimes just be, if you, for example, if you don't find the real task, but you're interested in a certain company, and that can sometimes be you are, I don't know, it can be that you are washing your clothes and you're maybe eating some sort of, I don't know, a cracker, and then you're reading the label, and then you find out it's really sustainable. And this is something, sustainability is one of my values. Okay. Right. Yeah. So you need to look in every direction and be very experimental. And what I obviously do is that when I'm talking to my clients, I also want to have their answers to the questions that I'm asking them. And then it's my outside view as well, telling them, okay, so jobs in that field. So for example, one great example that I have with a client is basically, she's from America, and she thought that she's just working in public relations, and she really didn't want to do that anymore. And then she found out, okay, she could work as an English teacher as well. So that's something that she was doing in her community once they moved here to Germany. And then I said, well, even if you don't have a degree in in teaching yet. There's always something that you can learn, and then you can always improve your skills. And who says that you cannot work as an English teacher in a private school? Because obviously the government schools have these restrictions that you have to have this amount of, I think, 5 years of studying Lehramt, and then it's really, really hard. But with private schools, they are really into native speakers at some point, and that's why. And then she said, I never thought that I could be a teacher, and then this opened up the entire world for her, and that was just simply because she was just looking for public relations instead of what she actually thought she was good at.
Amazing. So Lisa, there's tons of stuff that we can talk about around this. So, but we're going to have to stop this discussion now. But luckily, you've already agreed to come back on the podcast, so we're going to be hearing from you in a future episode. Before we wrap it up, though, I just want to ask you, where can people find you, and just briefly tell me what kind of services that you offer.
Yes. Okay, so you can basically find me on the social media channels. Probably the best address is on Instagram, Lisa Janz, Job Coach Germany. I go live there once a week, and it's a career coaching drop-in session, which basically means that people can come in and join me and ask questions during that live. And the things that I offer are basically finding the job that you want to do, and preparing your application documents, so your CV and your covering letter, mock job interviews. So basically, I am the HR lady and I ask the questions, and then you get evaluation on the answers that you've given and what you might want to improve. Mm-hmm. And also, I help them with regards to the probationary period, or from the point when you get that they want to hire you and you get the work contract, and then what it is that you need to find out, or what you need to look out for, what you need to be aware of. Mm-hmm. So, and basically from the job hunt until the end of the probationary period, these are the things that I cover.
Okay. And I'll put links to all of your platforms and where you're available in the show notes, so people can check those out and get in touch with Lisa.
Thank you so much.
And as I said, she's coming on a future episode, and we've got some ideas of what we're going to talk about, and then we'll get into more the German aspect of it and what people can expect here in Germany. But I'm looking forward to that. And it was very inspirational talking to you. I think you've got a lot of passion about it, so it's a lot of fun to discuss these kinds of topics with you.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. It was a real pleasure talking to you. It's just easy talking to you as well. So
it's my job. Thanks, Lisa.